What's up, guys? It's Giallo review time. It's been a long time since I did a Giallo or an Italian horror review, but I love doing them. I've done quite a few of them. Check out the playlist if you haven't. But today we're going to review a classic called The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, which is one of the most unique Giallo films I think I've ever seen. So anyway, let's get into it. The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave stars Anthony Stefan, Marina Malfatti, Erica Bloch, and is directed by Emilio Miraglia. What's up, guys? Welcome to another catalog review. I always like digging back and talking about some of the classics, maybe movies that are new to me that I've never seen. And I've been doing Giallo reviews pretty much most of my time on YouTube, thanks to my dear and late friend, Dylan Clancy. I always think of him when I watch Giallo movies, you know, gone way too soon. But I thank him so much, one, for his great friendship, and two, for exposing me to movies that without him I might not have ever even delved into. So, yeah. But also Dave Vanderhoff, a dear friend who has sent me so many great things throughout the years, and he's also a great friend. He sent this movie to me and he said, hey, I think you should definitely check this out. I think you'll dig it, and I think you'll want to review it. And he's right. I'm so glad I watched this movie. And by the way, check out the Arrow release if you haven't. Yes, this movie, I think you can find it on streaming sites like Tubi and others. But when you watch it on those, the quality just does not compare to what you get when you get the Arrow release. So just another honking the horn for physical media. Sometimes the digital version is just horrible compared to the physical release. I don't know if the source that they are able to acquire, just maybe it's not the Arrow release. I don't know. But I did kind of out of curiosity look up this movie on digital just to see what it looks like, and it's almost unwatchable. And I know that's probably going a little bit too far. Yeah, you could probably watch it, but maybe that's just watching the actual Arrow release. Wow, it looks glorious. And this is a 1971 movie, folks, okay? I will be talking some spoilers in this review as well, so if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. All right, it is really, really good, and it's one of the more unique Giallo movies because most Giallo movies, give or take, they do have some of the same sort of beats, especially the ones that are mostly slasher, which I think most Giallo movies are kind of slashers. And I do think there's a difference between Giallo movies and Italian horror movies, and I think this is kind of a mixture between both, because as I was watching this, I was thinking, is this a Giallo slasher type movie, or is this just more of like a zombie movie, like a character rising from the dead? Because that is what the title would kind of suggest. But again, spoiler review, it's not that, okay? But I think there is a little bit of the supernatural in terms of at least the characters wondering, you know, there is also like a seance scene in this. But let's get into the plot first, and then we'll get into all that. Now, the opening of this movie is this character, Alan, and he's like running from a mental ward. He's trying to escape, and the reason he's in a mental ward is because his late wife, Evelyn, she died in childbirth. But Alan is having these constant dreams about Evelyn where she's like running in this field naked with just a see-through type negligee. And there's this naked man awaiting her presence, and it's not Alan. So Alan was under the suspicion that Evelyn was having an affair on him before she passed away. One thing that's weird about this movie, and don't get me wrong, guys, this is an Italian horror movie. There's always going to be something weird about these movies. There's always sort of a dreamlike type nature to them. And I think most of them will leave you kind of scratching your head at maybe one or two plot points throughout. Yes, you can follow them, but there are a couple of moments, and maybe it's just because they're foreign films, and sometimes foreign films are a little bit more ambiguous in nature than American films. In America, we seem to have everything spoon-fed to us more now than ever. But, you know, I guess back in the day, especially with foreign films, the story doesn't necessarily have to give you everything, doesn't have to spoon feed you. And so I like movies that are ambiguous in nature and leave you A, wanting to give the movie another watch, and B, trying to maybe look at it as a puzzle and trying to decipher, or at least trying to come up with your own conclusions about what, one of the more confusing plot elements means. Because right after the scene where we see Alan running from the mental ward, then we immediately fast forward to him out of the facility, and he looks like he's just going on with life as usual. So you would assume after watching this movie that this scene that takes place after him trying to run away takes place maybe a couple months later. Maybe he was released. I don't know. They don't really go into that either. But yeah, so he is picking up these prostitutes, and they all have to have red hair because Evelyn had red hair. And he tortures them. He brings them to his house, his castle, his estate. He lives in this freaking mansion of a house. He's mega, mega wealthy, mega rich, okay, worth millions of dollars. It even says how much he's worth, $3 million. And $3 million in 71 is a lot of money. But he brings these women to his castle, and they have to go through these almost like catacomb-like areas. Everything kind of looks disheveled and everything. You'll see even like cobwebs and maybe even skeletons and whatnot. Eventually to this very nice room where, he puts them at ease. But then after that, he tortures them. Mainly with a whip. He's got this whip that he at first it's kind of like a playful type thing. And then he starts really whipping them, and it gets kind of stressful. And Alan has all these characters in his back pocket that cover things up for him. He's got a psychiatrist friend. He's got a best friend by the name of George, who when you first meet him, you would come to the conclusion that George is gay because he dresses like a gay man. I mean, really goes, he goes all out. But he's not. He's actually straight. He just likes to party, and I guess he's adventurous in his fashion. Maybe he's the original metrosexual. But I digress. But George tells Alan, you know what you need to do? You need to settle down. You need to get a wife. And so he introduces him to this woman by the name of Gladys. And I think Gladys has kind of a striking resemblance to Morgan Fairchild, which I just reviewed, or a while back, I just reviewed The Seduction with Morgan Fairchild, who's very easy on the eyes. I highly suggest you go and check out that review. I love doing these classics, damn it. But he literally meets her. I don't even think they're on a date. And then eventually he just comes right out and tells her, hey, I'm not getting any younger. Let's get in the sack and then let's get married in that order. And that's what they do. They get in the sack and they get married. And then they get in the sack again, a lot. This movie has a lot of nudity, by the way. This is an early 70s Italian horror movie. And, over in Europe, of course, they're not as hung up about nudity as we are in the States, right? And so that's one unique thing about these movies is they are just chock so much full of nudity that you would almost think, is this like softcore porn? I don't know. I guess they were the Skinamax before Skinamax. But we do have a story here. Evelyn keeps haunting Alan's dreams. And also Evelyn had this brother by the name of Albert who is kind of a groundskeeper. He just kind of like shows up from the shadows here and there. And he's sort of a red herring throughout too because he's a little threatening to Alan at times. And there's also Alan's aunt by the name of Alberta who looks like she could be his sister. But, it happens. Sometimes you have an aunt that's close in age to you. She's in a wheelchair. And she's actually having kind of a fling, I guess, with Albert, much to Alan's chagrin. Now, backing up just a bit, I think one of the scenes that is the most famous in this movie is this sort of striptease by this character by the name of Susie, played by Erica Blanc. If you pick up the Arrow Blu-ray, check out the interviews with Erica. You can tell that she really just loves this movie and is proud of the work that she did in this movie. And she actually created the dance scene that's in the movie. And she's even on the cover of the Arrow Blu-ray. But it is a really long scene. It's a good dance scene. And Alan is being very playful with her. And then eventually, of course, it turns into sort of a tragic scene. And he starts whipping her with the whip. And then in true Italian horror fashion, you start seeing like the zoom ins, the quick zoom ins, and they don't show the kill shot. Now, of course, this movie is a whodunit, but it doesn't have like a Giallo killer, a traditional Giallo killer where you got like the long trench coat with the hat and everything and, the black getup. For my American viewers that have never seen Giallo movies, just think of it as like the man in black in Halloween 5. Remember how he looked? That pretty much looks exactly like most Giallo killers. As a matter of fact, we often refer to as Halloween 5, us in the horror community, as the Giallo movie of the franchise. And I think that makes that movie more enjoyable because it sort of fits the vibe of Giallo movies where there's a little bit of weirdness to it. You got the Myers house looking like an Italian horror type house, like a gothic castle. You got plot points that kind of make no sense. You got zany characters. You get all that in Giallo movies. All Giallo movies are pretty much like Halloween 5. Don't get me wrong. There are some phenomenal freaking, I'm not trying to, pump up Halloween 5 to be this masterpiece. No. You got like the greats like Dario Argento, one of the most influential directors of all time. John Carpenter himself was influenced by Dario Argento. And you got movies like Suspiria that are just flat out masterpieces. Deep Red, also directed by Argento. Mario Bava doing Twitch of the Death Nerve. There's just tons of these movies that are fantastic. Torso being one of my favorites. So, like those movies, this movie definitely has a lot of twists in it, and it can get a little bit carried away in the twist department in the last act of the movie, where there are like layers of twists. I think there's like 3 or 4 different twists, and it gets kind of ridiculous, if I'm being honest. Before we get into the twists, let me talk a little bit about, I guess, the kills in this movie and the violence. It's a very patient movie that puts the story front and center, and it's not gratuitous in its kill scenes. Like I said, most of them is Alan torturing these women with the whip. And there's one signature kill that's very unique because Alan actually has this like fox pin on his property, and the killer throws his aunt Alberta in the fox pin, and then they rip her to shreds, and it shows like her intestines coming out. And that scene kind of comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh, damn, they're really going for it on this scene. So now let's go into, I guess, the twist area. And this is the point. If you've made it this far and you haven't seen this movie, this is where I'm going to reveal everything to you. So if you want to cut it off now, that's fine. So Alan is extremely wealthy, right? And so, of course, there's going to be this motive to, take the inheritance. And so George, he sets up Gladys with Alan. And so Gladys will try to kill Alan, and she will inherit his wealth. But George also gets Susie in on the plot. That's why you don't see her die in the scene. And so then it becomes this sort of catfight between Susie and Gladys. And that's where you start seeing some blood. There's like a knife fight between the two of them, and it gets really bloody. So you would think this movie would end after the reveal of Gladys and George, but no, they go further, and then they reveal Susie. And then they go further, and Alan is alive, and then there's a big fight between Alan and George in this pool. And so then there's this chemical that's released in the pool, and so Alan is able to push George into the pool, and his body like burns up, And yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a very unique Giallo picture. And I do like these ones that come along that don't have, the stereotypical black-coated killer. So many of them have that. And don't get me wrong, some of the best have that. Blood and Black Lace, which I've been planning on reviewing that. I will get to that one soon, which is a classic. I wonder if it might be one of the first to actually have the black trench coat killer. Now, as far as which language you watch in these movies, I chose in this particular instance to go with the English dub because they actually have some really good actors. I don't even know if it's the actual actors that are speaking in English, and sometimes the lips kind of line up, and that's a common thing with Giallo movies. They will actually tell the actors to perform in your native language. So sometimes you'll have an American act, like that Jennifer Connelly was actually in Phenomena, and Donald Pleasance. So basically, you could have actors that don't speak the same language, and they'll tell them, that's okay. Go ahead and speak, in your native language, and then we're going to overdub everything in Italian and English. Sometimes you get a really bad English performance, though, and so I end up watching the Italian version. But The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave. I highly recommend this. Love this cover, and tons of special features on this one. And Erica Blanc, it looks gorgeous on the cover. But yeah, highly recommend this movie to you guys if you haven't seen it. Pick up the Arrow edition. The picture looks glorious. Thank you, Dave Vanderhoff, for this. Giving this movie a purchase worthy for sure. Happy to add it to my Giallo collection. Okay? Have you seen The Night Evelyn Comes Out of the Grave? Let me know down in the comments. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, subscribe to Drumdums Xtra, the second channel, where we have live stream clips, my drum boxes, all that other stuff. Be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do FIFA Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my social, support me on Patreon, become a channel member, buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and Drumdum out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.